Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. I'll be perfectly honest with you starting off, guys. I'm a little, you're probably not going to hear as much oomph out of my voice today because as I'm recording this, I missed my throat punch Thursday, and I received one today in training. I got smashed right in the throat in training, doing some drills, and it's just kind of one of those things that happens sometimes. A lot of times I tend to run my classes with the students wearing MMA gloves, just because I want them to have that feeling, not getting too comfortable with having the big giant gloves on their hand that kind of can create a false sense of security for the most part. But we're working some drills, and I think I was moving back from a shot or something like that, and I took a right cross right smack in the throat. It's probably about the third or fourth time I've had it happen in as long as I can remember. And it's one of those things that gets you, like it never hurts when it happens. A lot of people overestimate the value of a throat punch, right? They say, oh, you hit him in the throat, that's it. Not necessarily. I got hit pretty early in training and kept going. Didn't even really realize it had happened till probably about 10 minutes left in the class, and I could feel it starting to bother me. I remembered it when it happened, but it was no thing at the time. But it's one of those things that it hurts to talk, it hurts to drink anything, cold, hot, solid food, liquid food, doesn't matter. It's just gonna hurt. So it'll be a nice lesson to keep in mind of keeping your chin down. And granted, a lot of times keeping your chin down, it doesn't always happen because things happen where you get your head popped up. A lot of weird shit happens when you're sparring. And this is just another one of those things. It's kind of the lifestyle that you live, man. You live by the sword, you die by the sword a lot of times. And, I got my throat punched Thursday today, but we'll see how it plays out. So far I can still talk, so I figured if I can still talk, even as painful as it is, pretty much every syllable coming out my mouth hurts right now. But, I make a commitment to you guys to give you a show, so here I am. So let's go ahead and get the housekeeping and stuff out of the way real quick. The websites are thebarbarianlounge.com. Go there, check it out. We got a lot of stuff on there. You can check out our shop. You can pick up some wonderful things. If you'd like to give somebody the gift of strangulation, you can get them one of our Thuggy strangulation cords located on the website there underneath that shop button. You click on that and you can find your Thuggy strangulation cords. If you aren't really sure about like the nature of them, I urge you to check out our episode entitled Thug Life. You listen to that episode, and we talk about basically the symbolic nature and basically why those thug cords were designed a specific way. I wanted to keep it somewhat traditional, so there you have it. So you can go there and pick one of those up, help support the show. The other ways that you can help support the show is by checking out that donate button. You click on that donate button, you'll have two options there. One of them is a one-time PayPal donation, meaning just that. You click on it and you donate whatever amount you would like to. Maybe you just want to say thank you. Maybe you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee. Maybe you'd like to buy me an ice pack for my throat. Either way, there's a good way to help support the show there, just with a nice little quick click of that button, and you're in there and adding a little bit of support our way. Supporting your fellow podcasters who put out good content is always an important endeavor. If you listen to my episode on Support the Fight, it's something that not a lot of people on the airwaves like to really talk about, because sometimes people think it comes off as whining, comes off as bitching or whatever, or you're just like money hungry and everything. But most podcasters, we do this because we love you guys. We're here to put out the content for you, and there's not a lot of good shows out there. There just isn't. And the ones that are good, you don't need to take them for granted. You need to offer your support for them. The other option that you can do underneath that donate button after you click it is you can check out our Patreon account. That is our members site. When you click on that Patreon, it'll take you to the Patreon page, and you'll be asked to do a donation per episode. Now, we do 4 regular shows on our Patreon account, which you would get early. We always put those up early. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's a couple weeks. So a lot of times it's been run about a week over. So that's a good way to get there and get those shows early if you just can't wait for them. But the other big perk is you get 4 exclusive members only shows per month. No more, no less. Well, no more. Sometimes if I do less, it doesn't cost you anything. So, I only like to charge my people for the work that I do. If I'm not doing the work, you don't get charged. It's plain and simple. So if you do a minimum $1 donation per show, 8 shows, that's $8 a month to help support the show. Now, a lot of people are really throwing their support out there, and they're doing more. They're doing $2, $3, $5. A lot of people are throwing that support out there, and it is definitely something that is definitely appreciated. Those member shows, man, I enjoy doing them. I try to keep them educational. Sometimes they get a little ranty, but I'm allowed to say the things on there that I don't really want over the open airwaves. The things that I want to have my Barbarian Horde members, those people, I want them to get that information, okay? Because when I get ranty, that's important information. It's important things that a lot of people need to really take to heart. I get a lot of intel from a lot of different sources. I have a pretty wide network, and a lot of times that intel gets leaked out over those members only shows. So go there, check it out. Patreon.com/TheBarbarianLounge. You click on there, put a little skin in the game, support the broadcast. Other options that you can do, I urge you to support our sponsors. Odinson Archery, traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. Go there, check it out. Christmas time is rolling in. You need to hit those, you can place those orders now while you got the chance. Every single thing you get from Odinson Archery is custom built, custom made to order. It's usually about a 2-week, 3-week tops turnaround time on most orders. So if you want to get that in before Christmas time, now's the time to do it. Check out some of the articles on the OdinsonArchery.com page and see why it's important for you to get into the sport of archery, not just for you, but for your children as well. The massive benefits that come from archery as it relates to children. We've done a lot of training with kids in the world of archery, and we kind of chronicle some of those experiences in there. And if you've listened to this show any, you know that the next generation, that's the generation we need to work on. And archery is the perfect way to get them into, basically correct a lot of the problems that modern society is trying to push on them. Modern society is constantly asking you to connect more to it. Through archery, you have the ability to disconnect. And that is what we want, especially for our children. So check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. Other sponsor, Mitacon, MitaconsUSA.com. My boy Ben out in Texas. Let me read this little header here. I'm going to try to do it in my commercial voice with my fucked up throat. So, Mitacon, with a proper diet, supports the cell's fastest, most effective absorption of natural nutrients in each 250 milliliter bottle and sustains the body's mitochondria generation of usable energy, key to producing ATP, the energy-rich fuel the body needs to achieve peak athletic strength, performance, endurance, and recovery. MitaconsUSA.com. Wow, that was a pretty painful promo. That was a pretty painful promo, but I did it. So support my boy out there, Ben. They got an Indiegogo campaign going on right now. If you check them out, if you go to MitaconsUSA.com, you can click on that and you'll find links and stuff to the Indiegogo campaign. So help support them. They're a small business trying to get a good product out there. A lot of people think Mitacon's an energy drink. It totally is not. It is for me, it's a recovery drink, man. Recovery, the older I get, man, recovery is so important. And, it's one of the big things that a lot of people tend to miss out on, especially, if you try and work out the same way, at 38 as you did when you were 28 or 20 or 21 or 18, you're going to fuck your body up in the long run. I've got a lot of I may not be super old, but I've got a lot of, miles on this body. Been through a lot of shit, put my body through a lot of stuff, through a lot of combat sports, and recovery is a huge deal for me. As I said, we do our tribe, we do our people no good if we are always hurt. So, get that recovery in there. Check them out, MitaconsUSA.com. You can also find the Barbarian Lounge on iTunes, Stitcher, and all those good things like that. You can also find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Barbarian Lounge. Now, if you don't know what Twitch is, it's a game streaming service. You can go there and subscribe to Barbarian Lounge on there. And basically what I do is I stream just kind of sitting around playing some video games. Now, when I'm streaming, I like to actually kind of do a Q&A. So there's a live chat that goes on during the broadcast, okay? And you can ask me questions there, and I can talk to you right through Twitch. My goal is to reach out into the younger generation who's into the game streaming community. I am not a professional gamer by any means. I am mediocre at best. Depending on what I'm playing, you know, a lot of times I tend to play Battlefield 1. I'm going to be streaming some poker on there pretty soon. And you guys have heard me talk a lot about poker. And anybody that's rocking the same unit as I am with PlayStation 4, you can actually join me in a poker game. I had one of my guys, one of our Barbarian members, actually joined me playing poker the other night. So it was a lot of fun to hang out with them right there at the poker table and playing. So check us out, twitch.tv/Barbarian Lounge. You'll also find a big red donate button there too, which if you'd like to donate to support the show there, please do so. I think I got all the stuff out the way. Well, I'm about 11 minutes in, and I think I'll be able to make it. I'm trying to drink this water here, and it's basically like trying to swallow what feels like one of those big giant marbles with spikes on it. That's about what it feels like. So, oh yeah, that's just glorious. So, all right. So today's episode, what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully nobody's cutting off. So sometimes when some of the networks and stuff carries our show, they tend to cut off the front part with all the housekeeping and stuff like that. I hope they're not doing that too much, because surprisingly enough, that's one of the more important things, because that is one of the things that helps support the show. I know it can be kind of a weird thing sometimes, and people get sick of hearing the same stuff over and over again. I don't do the exact same thing every single time, but those are important things that bring people to the cause. So I hope that's not necessarily happening too much. So I wanted to talk about on this broadcast, I wanted to talk about a topic you've probably heard me mention throughout various shows, but I figure it's so ridiculous, it's something that kind of needs its own show. That was a little bit of throat problems there. But I wanted to talk about liberal logic. Now, if you really think about it, the term liberal logic, those two words go together about as good as peanut butter and motor oil. All right? They're not very compatible. You don't find a whole lot of logical thought in the liberal mindset. All you have to do is just spend 5 minutes on YouTube and listen to some of these people talk, and you'll see that for the most part they don't really have much to say, because they don't have any sort of logical or rational explanation behind their entire ideology for the most part. Most of it is based off of emotion. If you listen to the liberal mind when they're trying to express their concern about something, basically they're not asking you to think, they're asking you to feel. And anytime people are asking you to feel rather than think, well, there's a problem, because you're not responding with the most logical thought process. You're actually responding from an emotional standpoint. And we all know that, we've talked about it at length on this show, that responding emotionally it can be an absolute detriment. If you've listened to and I know that there's a lot of you folks out there that don't play poker, but if you listen to some of my episodes and read some of the things that I posted about poker, there's a lot of thought process in there where I get a lot of reps in actually using these things. One of the great things about poker is you learn to check your emotions real quick. Emotional play will lead you to nowhere. It'll actually it will lead you somewhere. It will lead you to an empty bankroll. You won't have any money left. Classic case in point, I was playing poker the other night, and I was very early in the game. I lost about 3/4 of my stack. Just a bad beat. It's not, you can say, oh, you fucked up, you should have folded. No, it was a hand that I shouldn't have folded. I just got outplayed. That's what happens. There is an element. Poker is a game of skill, but there's an element of luck that plays into it as well. The other guy was more lucky than I was. But when you start to really, when a lot of times when guys get those bad beats like that, they have what they call going tilt. And when you tilt, is basically like you just completely get emotional, get upset and angry, and you don't play well. And a lot of times when you go tilt, it's time to step away for a little bit. You can do that. That's an option if you react emotionally. Or you take some deep breaths, get your shit together, and keep fighting and play like you should. The one good thing about poker is you tend to lose something tangible, which is money. And for a lot of people, that is definitely an emotional trigger. I know it has been for me in the past. But, you can either tilt and get upset and angry and, and lose more money, or get your shit together. You can fight and possibly make more money. For me, even though I lost 3/4 of my stack, when I left the game an hour later, I had tripled what I initially came into the game with. So I tripled my winnings just by keeping my shit together. Not deviating from my game, not deviating from my game plan. No, I was not happy about losing 3/4 of my stack to start with, but you got to keep your shit together. And don't react emotionally, don't play emotionally, don't play for revenge, don't play to try and get your money back. You just play. You play the game the same way you always would play. But see, with the liberal mind wants you to feel things. They want you to feel, they want you to react emotionally, because that is the most irrational state. It is the nature in which the liberal mindset tends to operate. If you look at, it's the same reason when you try and have a conversation with these people, they're like, well, I'm trying to reason with them. You can't reason with these people, right? You can't reason with them. The difference between a terrorist and a liberal is you can negotiate with a terrorist, plain and simple, right? Obviously, those lines, the more and more we see the liberal mindset uncloaking itself, right? The more we see that uncloak, we start to find that the idea of the terrorist and the liberal is actually it's a little closer than we think. For the most part, at least the terrorist has reasonable demands. They want some money. They want some, which liberal wants free shit too. But typically there's no negotiating with them. There's typically no conversation to be had. They want you to feel things. They want you to respond emotionally. And if you're not willing to respond emotionally, well, then they hit you with emotional words, racist. Because when you throw the word racist at somebody, what is typically their response? Well, I'm not a racist, and they start defending themselves. It doesn't matter how you defend yourself. It's an emotional word. They're trying to trigger you, right? They'll call you a bigot. Same thing. They'll call you a homophobe. Same thing. So all these things, these words get thrown around. They're all emotional triggers. It's what they're trying to do. Once we understand this game plan, we start to understand exactly, how do we deal with these people? Well, the answer is you don't. You really can't deal with them. You're not going to convert them. No matter how much logic you throw out there towards them, it's not going to matter, because they're appealing to the emotional aspect of things. The biggest problem with the liberal left right now, with this whole communist uprising nonsense and the Antifa and all that shit, the biggest problem with them is people are yielding. People have yielded to the madness. People have said, okay, well, we don't want to offend people, so we're just going to do this. Not realizing that these are a small minority of people. The last election proved that. These are a small minority of people. The majority of the United States does not follow this ideology, yet this small amount is allowed to guide the whole. There's a huge problem with that. But, I've been kind of chronicling this week some of the liberal logic mindset, and the first time that I really started thinking about it this week was the whole New York City truck attack, right? We saw where the guy, some angry ISIS-supporting Muslim, who, ironically enough, was brought here through a diversity program. Wow. There's your diversity. There's your cultural diversity. It's great, huh? And that is an incompatible culture. You can't insert their culture into Western society and expect it to blend together. Even when you look at people who have somewhat assimilated, and I wouldn't even say assimilated, who have at least abiding by the laws here of the United States, they still don't convert to Western culture. They still want their own pockets of things. And I mean, that's fine for the most part if they want to maintain that tribal identity, but at the end of the day, where does your loyalties lie? When these attacks happen, when these Muslim attacks happen, where are all the mosques coming out and condemning them, saying, we don't support this. This is wrong. Where are they at? I don't see them. Do you? Oh, I saw one, I saw two. Why aren't they all doing it? See, there's a problem there. An underlying problem that nobody wants to look at. So when this whole thing kicked off, this guy, drove down I think it was a bike path in a Home Depot truck, and I'm not sure if he stole it or rented it or whatever, but either way, drove down through there, plowed into a bunch of people, killing 8, jumped out with like a paintball gun and like an airsoft or some shit like that, and or pellet gun. And I don't know if he was trying to get the police to kill him, or I don't know what his plan was. Obviously, I'm guessing he wanted them to kill him because he wasn't going to do any damage with the other 2 items. But he didn't get killed, and that's unfortunate as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely unfortunate. Now this guy's going to go through a trial process. We're paying for him to be taken care of in the hospital. We're going to pay for his trial. Maybe he'll get the death penalty. Maybe he won't. I don't know. Maybe he'll spend life in prison. But either way, we're going to be paying for all this stuff. When, for the price of a bullet, we could have taken care of this right now. Oh, well, he's innocent until proven guilty. They saw the motherfucker get out the truck after he did it, screaming, Aloha Snack Bar. Okay? There's no trial to be needed here. People like this should be made an example of, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, that's cruel and harsh. Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. But people like this guy and a lot of the criminals out there, they believe that they can come here and they can do these things. They'll just go to prison and, whatever. They'll find more of their own people in there. And they feel like everything's going to be just fine. They'll be taken care of forever. I'm not a fan of that in the least bit, especially if you know for a fact that the guy did it. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Shoot him, hang him from a bridge. Shoot him, hang his body from a bridge, and let the birds pick him clean. Right? Oh, that's barbaric. Yeah, that's where we're at. How else do you communicate with a barbaric society, a barbaric people? You're talking about ISIS here. This motherfucker had the nerve to say he wanted his ISIS flag from his apartment to be hung up in his hospital room. They should have brought it in there and strangled him with it. They should have hung him up by his ISIS flag. I mean, but you hear all this stuff, and what does the liberal left do? Because people start saying, this is the problem with the diversity program, this is the problem with this, and what does the left start saying? Well, if we're going to start talking about this, we need to start talking about getting rid of all these white people who are committing these terrorist acts, like the Las Vegas shooter. What about the white Christian Las Vegas shooter? I didn't hear people saying we need to get rid of all the white people. As if that logic even fucking clicks, right? It's an emotional trigger word. First off, the guy's dead. Second off, how do you know he's a Christian guy? Because last I heard, nobody's even found anything relating him to any sort of ideology, no motive, no nothing. Zero, at least that they're telling us, right? So there's no ideology there. Was he a leftist? Who knows? Was he a right wing? Who knows? ISIS supporter? Who knows? Nobody knows. All they know is that the guy did something. Now he's dead. What can we do? What can we do? But this is what the left wants to do. They want to completely ignore the danger that is right there at the door. It's right there at the door. And the door is wide open, and they're just rolling right in. They use the whole, well, not all Muslims argument. And I will agree with that. Not all Muslims are out there doing this. They're not. But what is the vetting process looking like? It's like saying not all white people are mass shooters. But if you have the ability to vet those people who are going to be dangerous with a firearm, then you do it. Such as our background check system. And what about mental health? Let me tell you something, guys. A lot of people don't know this, but I used to work in gun sales, and a lot of places, I know South Carolina's this way, if you have any mental health issues, whenever they run the background check here in South Carolina, it actually goes through any reports through like the probate court and anything like that handles things like mental health. Any sort of things that you've been in the if you've been in a hospital for mental health issues or anything like that that's been reported that is known of, you don't get a gun. You don't. You will get denied. You will get denied. So there are things that can be done. But, you know, they use the whole not all Muslims argument. And, you know, my thing is okay, I will concede that, sure, not every single Muslim is out there killing people. But at the same time, I say, you know, what religion, worldwide, what religion is holding the record for killing people right now? And I use that term, those words right now, because I'll go, oh, well, Christians have the, okay, that's fine. When's the last time you've seen a Christian suicide bomber? When's the last time you've seen Christians grabbing people up off the street and beheading them? When's the last time you've seen a Christian get into a vehicle and drive it through a bunch of people? Now, and did it in the name of Christ. So keep all that in mind. Suicide bomber in the name of Christ. Throwing gays off roofs in the name of Christ. Acid attacking people in the name of Christ. When have you heard of this stuff happening? In any time, 1900, even fucking 1800 and up. When have you heard of that? Even in the last 100 years, the last fucking 50 years, when have you heard of that? You haven't. So you start throwing it. You know what? When the Christian uprising happens and they want to start doing shit like that, then we'll talk. You know, if the Buddhists decide that they want to start suicide bombing people because no one's able to really attain the status of the Buddha, then yeah, you know, we'll talk about that. But until that point happens, the religious threat is Islam. It just is. It's an incompatible culture. You know, they want to throw that out there. And the thing is, you know, they'll say, well, you know, what about the Vegas shooter? You find that the left was just absolutely tickled pink when they found out that the Las Vegas shooter was a white guy. I mean, oh my God, it just makes them so happy because now they can use that argument for just about everything, right? But they go, what about the Vegas shooter? What about Dylan Roof? What about the Pulse nightclub shooter, which was a Muslim, by the way? What about OKC? You know, what about what the fuck ever? So they keep throwing out all these different things of you know, mass shooters and bombing, stuff like that. You know, a very small percentage too, by the way. But we'll allow them to use that. To that, I would say, okay, tell me exactly what your plan is to stop the domestic terrorist. What's your plan? What's the plan to stop a domestic terrorist? Do you have one? You know, you can say, well, the problem with domestic terrorism is there's certain things you can do to monitor it, but for the most part, it's already here. You can't do anything about it. It's already here. The domestic terrorist is within the walls. He's inside the gates. He's operating from a level of anonymity. So, very, very difficult to handle the domestic terrorist. Now, we move that towards this truck attack in New York City. And you've got a guy who was brought here under a diversity program. Pulse nightclub, you have a guy who was brought here. 9/11, you had a bunch of guys who were brought here. The shoe bomber, you had a guy who was brought here. Okay? So all of these different things all have that one thing in common. They were all brought here. You know, I use the argument with like the whole like a breaking in analogy. You know, for the most part, if your home gets broken into, what do? Right? You take your home and you secure it. You lock the door. You maybe add a security system. You put some motion sensor lights and all these different things. You do whatever you can to secure your home. Right? Now, if you have a determined individual who wishes to break into your home, he's going to do it. Sure, there's things you can use to deter him, but for the most part, you can't make your home 100% burglar proof. There's always a way in. Yet, you've done everything in your power to prevent that person from breaking into your home. Alright? But, they want in, so, you know, if they want to find a way in, they'll find a way in. Right? Plain and simple. But you've done everything in your power to stop that from happening. Now you take that same thing and say somebody breaks into your home, and your response is to say, well, you know what? I'm just going to leave my door unlocked anyway because I don't want to live in a society like that where you have to lock your doors every day. You have volunteered to be broken into again and again and again and again. You're just leaving the door. I mean, the guy shows up with all of his tools. He's ready to fucking, break the lock, and he goes to turn the knob, and boop, the door opens right up. You might as well just gift wrap your shit for him right there. Go ahead and unplug the electronics. Go ahead and pile them up by the door so you don't have to do too much work. But this is the mindset of the left, right? We can't prevent the domestic terrorist. We can't prevent the mass shooter. All we can do is prepare and act accordingly. Awareness. There's a lot of different things we can use to try and stop the threat that's already here. But the threat that's coming from outside, lock the door. Lock the door. It's not difficult. But they don't even want you to take the steps to prevent these people from coming. Oh, but what about the children? Well, there you go with your emotional buzzwords. Just to let you know, most of these refugees are not. Most of them are not. But they're always trying to get this open door policy. And how's this open door policy working for places overseas? Oh, it's working like, truck attacks, mass stabbings, shootings, bombings. So it's working wonderful, right? It's working wonderful as no-go zones pop up all across the EU, where you can't even walk down the street anymore without being accosted by men in dresses. And no, it's not tranny town. So the liberal mindset, they want this here because for some reason they believe that all of their LGBT and all this other, I'm gonna dress like a whore because that's my right as a woman and all these things like that. They think that that's gonna fly when you start bringing this culture here. Let me tell you something, ladies. Let me tell you something, ladies of both genders. It's not gonna work that way. Just look at how well you're accepted by these people. But you have to ask yourself, why do they want them here, right? I've always contended that it's not necessarily more votes, but it's foot soldiers. Classic chaos theory, right? They want to create chaos, and through that chaos, possibly get the system that they actually want. And that leads to like the whole mindset behind the whole no guns thing, right? Liberals are constantly going after the guns, and they will fuss and fuss and fuss at I heard after the Las Vegas shooting, they said, it's just like Republicans to want to politicize a tragedy like this. Whereas the Las Vegas shooting, right? Did I say? I think I said. I might have got that backwards. I might have said both of them. I meant the New York truck attack versus the Democrats and the liberals after the Las Vegas attack. They're like, oh, we got to do something about these guns. There's too many guns on the street. Immediately trying to push through legislation. So, that's the whole thing, right? They always wait for a tragedy to come at you because that's when you're weakest. But let's be honest, or that's when most people are weakest. But let's be honest, the no guns thing. It's not about safety. It's not about having a safer society and everything like that. The reality is that the left, the liberal left, the communist left, whatever you want to call them, they want all the power. And they know the easiest way to attain the power is to take the teeth away from the dog. Dog with no teeth, how much do you fear his bite? So they want to disarm the majority of the American people because the majority of the American people does not fit their ideology, and if they can't defend themselves, well, guess what? You get wiped out. Look at all the other places this has happened throughout history. History is the learning tool here. You look at Stalinist Russia when Mao Zedong was in power. You look at even if you look at like North Korea now. I know there's some weirdos out there that think North Korea is like the beacon of freedom, which is insane. even Nazi Germany. I mean, and whether what your opinions about either one of those are, is, that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is that when a controlling power wants to push another out, they disarm them. And this is what the left wants. They want all the guns. They don't want you to have it. They don't. They know that if they can disarm you, that if they do decide to do an uprising, well, it's going to be a nice, quick, easy defeat. Or that's what they believe, at least. All these uprisings throughout history, they all have that in common. Every one of them. Every single one of them have this in common. That, and that's the whole push behind the left's, we want to get rid of the guns. But here's the thing, guys. You're not going to get rid of the guns. I hate to tell you. You're just not going to do it. One, there's too many of them. Two, I ain't turning my shit in. And most of the time, you're like, oh, we're going to bury guns. Let me tell you something. If you start burying your guns, that's probably the time that, if you feel like you need to bury your guns, you probably should be digging them up and using them. Okay? Wow, that hurt. But, this is the mindset of the left, though. This is what they want. They want a beaten down society that's willing to react emotionally and give up all of their power. Because they want the power. Because that's the one thing about gun control they don't tell you, right? If for some reason, everybody puts their guns down, whomever decides to pick the first one up again, they're in charge. They're in charge. Weapons have always been the symbol for a free man. When a gladiator was freed of service, he was given a sword, because a weapon was assigned for a citizen. You hear the liberals a lot of times. I use the argument, they'll say they want, God, too many guns, and you'll throw the argument at them about Chicago. I do. I say, what about Chicago? Chicago, gun-free zone, highest murder rate in the nation. Every place that has the highest murder rate in the nation are gun-free areas. And they go, well, what ends up happening is a lot of these people are going across the border or across state lines and getting the guns and bringing them back in. First off, they're not going to gun shops and gun shows to buy them. First off, they're buying them on the street, which most of those guns are stolen, which, by the way, is a crime. Second of all, why are these people who are bringing guns back across the state lines? They know it's a gun-free zone. Why are they bringing them back across the state lines if it's a gun-free zone? Did they not read the signs? Oh, wait. So you're telling me that criminals are not obeying the law? My mind is blown. Criminals don't obey the law? Well, of course they don't. Of course they don't. Of course they don't obey the law. They never have. That's why they are criminals. So of course they're going to bring the guns over illegally. Of course they're going to buy stolen guns, which a lot of times they get stolen from places down south a lot and brought back up there because of these satellite gang units that are around. South Carolina has several satellite gang units who have broken into gun stores, stolen a bunch of shit, and they found stuff up in Chicago. Surprise, surprise. I'm sitting here trying to actually map out the mind of the liberal is a rabbit hole like no other. It really truly is, because if you're a logical person, when you start trying to really look at these arguments that they have, it's just you find yourself just going like you just can't grasp where their minds are at. That's because these are crazy people. These are crazy people. But you know what, liberals, let me tell you what. Now, me, Alan Odinson, I will stand behind I will support your whole gun control thing, okay? I'll support your gun control. I would like to see all guns removed from society. All of them. Every single gun in the world destroyed. No more guns. No more guns anywhere. Nobody has one. Nobody has any guns. You don't have them. I don't have them. Nobody has them. And I'll tell you why I support that. I remember hearing this from, I think it was Tuhan Tom, of his support for gun control as well. And I agree with this. I am as it stands right now, I am a 240-pound man. I lift weights. I'm strong. I have endurance. I've spent most of my life engaging in some sort of violence. I've been in security industries. I've been a bouncer. I've worked high-level nuclear security. I've been a professional. I've fought in professional MMA, professional boxing, professional jiu-jitsu tournaments. I've trained in the art of jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai. I have experience in many forms of different blade arts. So I've been involved in violence quite a bit. If there are no more guns in society, there is absolutely nothing that will stop me from hurting you. Okay? Unless for some reason you've got some sort of magical pill that manages to make you so much more dangerous than you actually think you are, there's nothing that's going to stop you. I will slap you to death. Okay? And that's what a lot of these people don't get. The old saying of God didn't create every man equal, Sam Colt did, that's pretty true. Weapons are the great equalizer. Guns are a great equalizer. Civilizations have been built, civilizations have fallen because of the firearm. And if you guys really want all the guns gone, it's gonna be a short day for you, because there's a lot of people like me out there. So you better embrace the gun culture pretty quick, because it is the thing that is keeping you alive right now. It is. There's a lot of people out there who are many who are even more skilled at violence than I am. They don't realize that, though. What should really make, we hear all this talk. I know tomorrow is the November 4th, where they're supposed to start Civil War II, which I think is laughable for the most part. The reality to that is, understand that without weapons, without guns, most people like me and the crew I run with, and most of the people I know who are skilled in violence, without guns, we can destroy you. Very easily, very quickly. With guns, even if you do have guns, we have guns too, and we train with them. A lot. No, I'm not talking about shooting skeet. No, I'm not talking about staying on range shooting targets. I'm talking about we train with our firearms. Many of you practice, but you don't train. So either way you go about it, guys, you better start developing a realistic ideology, because your whole hope of civil war is a fucking joke. A joke. Shortest civil war ever. It'll be barely a skirmish. Okay? It trips me out to hear them talk about this whole, we want gun control. Yeah, sure, me too. Yeah. No weapons for you? Let's just bare hands. Oh boy. Oh boy. The other thing that I think is funny, and I just heard this before coming on the air, was, if you don't know, the liberals, the liberal mindset, they are absolutely enthralled, and I don't know if they shiver all day long, scared that they're white supremacists hiding behind every corner, but the left is absolutely just they are so obsessed with the thought that white supremacists are hiding in every bush, and they're waiting on every corner, just waiting to attack. And I've always thought it's absolutely hilarious, because most of the true white supremacists are not very supreme at all to start with, but it's this whole fake identity politics idea. You know, this whole, you know, race-based politics. Oh, well, you need to vote for this guy because he's for the minority groups. Like, what the hell is that? You know, what does that even mean? If the guy's got an ideology that is worth following, then, you know, he's the one that we should be following, correct? But again, as I said in the beginning of the show, they don't have an ideology worth following. Therefore, they do what? They try to respond with emotional. Oh, you're in danger. You need to vote for this person. You know, but there's a campaign going on right now that I believe was started on 4chan. That's a campaign of "It's okay to be white." So basically what it was, they were putting up flyers all across the U.S. and all these flyers said was "It's okay to be white." That's all. There was no like email address. There was no website. There was no nothing. It was just a blank piece of paper with the words "It's okay to be white" posted up in various places all across the U.S. Now, this was done for a couple different reasons. The main reason was to expose the true racists out there and expose that despite what people think, there is a war on white people out there. And it's a shame, really. It really is a shame. And most of this stuff is carried on by the left, who is I've said for years, the minority community should be absolutely enraged at the liberal left. Absolutely enraged, the communist left, whatever you want to call them, because they've always used minorities as their foot soldiers to try and get things done. They rile them up and make them think there's some sort of threat out there, and these people respond emotionally, and there you go. But when they put these flyers out, the whole idea was to expose the whole media operation behind it too. Because I remember reading something where they were saying that basically we're going to post these flyers up, and it's going to have a very simple message on there that's not, you know, not anything racist, nothing, you know, nothing threatening, no anything. We're just going to say, hey, it's okay to be white. And the media is going to create a shitstorm over this. This is what they said before doing it now. The media is going to create a shitstorm and say these are racist and blah, 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 and it'll expose their bias towards white people. And you know what? That's exactly what's happening. I actually saw a newscaster reading that very statement as she's doing exactly what that statement said that they wanted them to do. But it does. It exposes the racist ideology that is actually behind the leftist mindset. And it's always been this way. It's always been this way. The Democratic Party, they're the ones that founded a lot of these racist organizations. They are. I mean, they're the founders of it. You know, but the whole idea behind this was, you know, it's okay to be white. People are going to say, oh, those are racist flyers. It's like, really? So if you think that those flyers are not okay, then you are saying that it's not okay to be white. To that I would say, why isn't it? Why isn't it? I wouldn't have a problem with a flyer that says it's okay to be black, because guess what? It is okay. It's okay to be Muslim. Yeah, it's alright. Just as long as you're not fucking driving trucks through people, through crowds of people. Yeah, it is okay. But you say it's okay to be white and everybody starts freaking out. Why is that? If there's no war against white people and white people are the only ones that can be racist, then, you know, of course, that's what they say, right? Then why is it not okay to be white? Why is it? You know, it's absolutely hilarious to me when people say, oh, you know, white people are the only ones that can be racist. Dude, I'm going to tell you what. A lot of people think the South is full of a bunch of racist white people. But the reality is I think you find more racist minority groups in the South than you do anywhere else. Now, of course, there's pockets of places that will break those rules. But for the most part, it's not the case. Because I think, and it's gotten worse over the years, man. It used not to be a big issue, but now with the whole push for identity politics through the left, you know, there's a lot more tension than there used to be, and I really hate seeing that because, you know, I'm nice to everybody until it's time to not be nice to them, right? The old Patrick Swayze thing, which is true if you're ever in the security business. It is. Be nice till it's time to not be nice. Roadhouse. So, you know, I hate seeing that. And I hate people not realizing they're being used by these psychotic crazy people on the left. It's really bad. But you know, in the left can say things completely that fall into the category of even insulting the minority groups, and they don't even care about it. If you listen to the last show on Hollow Weird, I talked about the whole thing where the lady said that, you know, learning math is a form of white supremacy. And the reason she said learning math was a form of white supremacy is because, one, math was created by white people, you know, Greeks and everything. That's where a lot of the things like algebra and geometry and all this, that's where a lot of this shit come from. Not only that, but because, you know, it's much more difficult for black students to pick up a lot of the math stuff. And, you know, when I hear that, I'm thinking to myself, you know, if I'm a person of African descent, I say, hey, fuck you, lady, I can do math, right? What, are you saying we're too stupid to do math? Who are you? Who are you? But, you know, nobody picks up on that. They just go, yeah, it is white supremacy. And it's like, wait a minute. This lady just said you're too dumb to understand math.